Thank you, Basil, for joining in the Chambers of the Chambers. Such a privilege to have you here in this session, and I'm sure we are going to get a lot of insights from you. Always curious to know about your journey. You were in-house counsel, and from in-house counsel to a law firm, founder of a law firm, Counsel Co. How is this journey?
So I began my corporate law journey in 1999. The first in-house stint was with a manufacturing company called Indochem. It was a part of the Cutout Group. But that was primarily litigation. I spent about a year over there. And then I was fortunate that at that point of time, the world was changing very rapidly, especially India, because the IT boom was just beginning to happen. And I was really fortunate to get an opportunity with the Godrej and Boyce Group, which had an IT company called Geometric Software Solutions. I was its first in-house counsel, and that gave me the opportunity to actually build the legal department right from scratch. I spent actually most of my career of until now with Geometric Software as its legal counsel, and then finally rose to become the general counsel, became a part of the senior management team, was on the board of directors of one of its joint ventures with Dassault Systems. The company was called 3D PLM Software Solutions. Along the way, I got an opportunity to do many things. Right, being a generalist, I could work on commercial contracting, compliance, employment-related issues, mergers and acquisitions, and also a bit of disputes and intellectual property as well. Geometric, interestingly, had started off as a software products company and then slowly moved into IT services. It was focused on the product lifecycle management space at that time. But there were a lot of interesting opportunities. I feel that I'm also grateful to the management and the directors, board of directors of Geometric, who gave me a lot of opportunities to decide the direction of the legal department and align it with the business. Over the years, we innovated a lot over there. Of course, Geometric being in a niche space, I couldn't grow beyond a particular point, and I decided to explore other opportunities after that. My focus and passion was on trying to innovate in the legal space, mainly with measuring legal performance. And I set out to do that in 2012. I started off first with McKinsey in a management consulting role, where I was a freelance expert for them on commercial contracting, which had nothing to do with legal aspects, but more to do with commercial aspects of contracts. And then simultaneously, I was also allowed to do my own management consulting practice, which I did for startup law firms for until about 2017. Then one of my clients, a law firm, asked me to come on board as a lawyer and a partner, heading employment law, commercial contracting, disputes, and intellectual property. And that was another interesting phase of my career. That's where I then found the confidence later on to be able to advise on the other side of the table. So far, I was always receiving advice from law firms. Now I was able to give advice, and since I already knew the other side, this was a very interesting shift for me. Unfortunately, maybe for most, but fortunately for me, I would say, COVID struck, and I got the opportunity to then set up my own practice, and that's what I did with Counsel Co in 2020 when the lockdown had just begun. That's how we got here.
So, can you share some of your insights about your early assignments in the law field? How did you get those assignments? How was your experience?
In-house, I started off mainly with contracts, but then gradually, as I explained earlier, the IT space was opening up, and one of the key elements was because there was a lot of on-site assignments. One of the challenges was in immigration law, where we had to get work permits for our employees going on-site engagement. Germany had just opened up a program at that point of time known as the German Green Card. That was very challenging because it was new, and we had to try and understand something in a foreign jurisdiction. So I count that as one of my most interesting opening assignments. And right at the start of my in-house career, I was given an opportunity to work on mergers and acquisitions. We did a sale of one of our most important software lines, and then there were certain other acquisitions that we were doing. Then setting up a joint venture with Dassault Systems right at the beginning of my in-house career was really a huge challenge. I count that as one of my, again, most exciting assignments. Apart from that, one thing which really stands out and for which I won a lot of appreciation was handling of a software infringement claim from a US company which claimed a significant amount of money that had the potential to sink our company. The manner in which it was handled, particularly in terms of the nuances of US law which were interpreted, turned around the situation for us, and we ended up having a gold partnership with this particular US company. So I count that as easily the single biggest achievement of my in-house.
Basil, you are a great proponent of legal from business angle. Could you please explain something about that?
Sure. Thank you first of all for asking this question, because this is a subject closest to my heart. Now, business from a legal angle means many things. Largely, it means, most commonly, it means that a lawyer should have a business perspective and he should take into account business objectives. Now, while that is completely true, and I want to add a new dimension to this. What I have done over the years is to try and figure out how one can actually measure legal performance. Not the performance of a lawyer, but actually the performance of a legal system, a contract system which includes people, processes, content, and maybe technology as well. So putting all of that together, how can one actually design it in such a way that there is measurable improvement in performance? That is the real business value. So when I say legal from a business angle, what I mean is, apart from the first aspect, which is business perspective or understanding the business, I'm also talking about how to have a management business approach to a legal process or a legal situation. Okay, just let me allow me to give you an example of what I mean by measurement of legal performance. So we all know that the lawyer will, let's take the example of a contract, right? A lawyer has to review or draft and negotiate the contract, and doing so he has to keep in mind all the legal aspects, limitation of liability, indemnification, and so on. But the question here is the lawyer doing it fast enough? The common difficulty or challenge that most businesses face is that the lawyers take too long. If they're supposed to turn around something in 3 days, they will turn it around in maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Now that that makes business really suffer. So therefore the key question to ask over here is, why is it taking 2 weeks instead of 3 business days? And once you find the answer to that, so you do a root cause analysis and you find out what is causing that, then you address that root cause through a solution to bring it down from 2 or 3 weeks to 3 business days. Just imagine the amount of savings, and there is a lot of financial value which gets translated from the savings. It gets translated onto the P&L and the balance sheet of the company. That's what we are trying to do.
So when you conduct interviews for young lawyers, what do you expect of them?
Anybody that we are hiring, we hire mainly for one thing, that is potential. And if I were to look at another thing is sincerity, right? And how do we evaluate that? There are multiple ways to do that. But we don't look for somebody who is 100% a perfect fit. We'll never find somebody like that. So I always look at the learnability of the individual. If the person has high learnability, we can definitely teach them all the possible skills that are required. Also behaviorally, we look at their what is commonly known as attitude or approach. Very difficult to assess, but we do have ways of doing that. As long as we look at these two things, potential and sincerity, a candidate having these two things will go a long way. That's how we go.
Today's world is very dynamic. What kind of opportunity do you see in the market?
See, lawyers and law firms are in a profession which never runs out of work, right? So opportunities always exist. But what is important is, how do law firms and lawyers capture this opportunity in the right way? Clients have now become extremely discerning about quality, about cost, and about the time to deliver. And that's what we are doing here. We are trying to focus on each of these 3 aspects in an optimal way so that the client gets the solution within all of these particular constraints. With regard to quality, what we are doing, what we mean by quality is not just that we are giving them the correct legal advice, but that the correct legal advice is also communicated in a way that is understandable by the layperson. And above all, it is, we don't just give a solution, right? Everybody gives solutions nowadays. But what clients also are looking for, they're looking for someone to help them implement those solutions. Very often in implementation of the solution, there are more risks. So a lawyer and a law firm, if it is working with the client along the implementation also, then it will achieve far more impact. We see the opportunities in this particular dimension.
Working from home, versus swanky corner office. What's your view?
I love working from home. Now we can call it working from anywhere. So there have been occasions when I have worked from holiday destinations, and I know quite a few of my lawyers who have also done that. But more seriously, working from home has so many advantages. I know people talk about disadvantages as well. I can talk about the advantages because maybe I'm fortunate to have enough space in my house to be able to have some silence and peace to be able to work. The biggest advantage here obviously for me is the travel time. Okay, travel time is not just the time spent in traveling from point A to point B. It's the preparation to travel and the energy spent in travel. Just to give you an example, when I used to travel earlier to my office in Worli, it used to take me 2.5 hours in the morning and then another half an hour to recoup my energy. And then coming back 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours, and another 2 hours, or maybe I would not be able to do any other work. So effectively the day, the productive time in the day available was hardly 5 to 6 hours. Whereas now I've been able to spend at least 12 productive hours and I still feel energetic. That's a very key difference. So I think offices are fine, but I'm not hung up about that, and I see work from anywhere, work from home working extremely well for me and for me.
So we would love to hear some of your key learnings of your entire career about legal profession and how you progress in your career.
Let me begin with a little earlier in my working career. Not many people know that I was actually I started off in sales, and then I moved on to teaching before I took up the legal profession. I have learned from each of these professions. For example, from sales I have learned how to negotiate, I have learned how to deal with people in a different, more easygoing manner. I learned how to create win-win solutions from the sales profession. From teaching I learned how to explain concepts in a very simple, easy manner, understanding what my audience is looking for and how to message something to them. And of course in the legal profession itself I have learned many things, but the most important lesson that I have learned and which I would like to pass on to young professionals is focus on the fundamentals, the fundamental principles of law. I have personally used this to great effect. Focusing on fundamental principles has got me many a times great results, and I think it will get great results even for legal professionals otherwise. The other thing is very important, which I personally adopt, is focusing on excellence. If you try to improve each and every time, right? You do something well now, doesn't mean to say you can't do it better the next time. You continuously improve and you will definitely progress much faster than your peers. These are the pieces of advice I would like to give.
Thanks Basil for your beautiful insights in the chambers. Now we will be meeting you in off the chambers. Thank you so much. So thanks for joining in the chambers. Now we are in off the chambers section, and we are going to understand about how Basil is a person, individualized. So my first question to you is about how successful was your internship with Flavia during the lockdown season?
If you ask me, I think it was pretty successful. But if you ask her, I will probably never get a job anyway.
So Basil, one sport that you played a lot along with your childhood friends, and now you cherish to play again, what could that be?
Soccer, football,
Okay.
as we call it in India. That's one thing I really miss. I was very good at it when I was in school. I was the captain of the under 14 team.
Wow.
But over the years, I lost opportunities to play. I mean, obviously due to work and other responsibilities. But if you were to revisit childhood, that's one game I would like to play with my friends.
From family perspective, do you want Sean and Chris to pursue legal as a profession?
Absolutely. In fact, I always call myself a lawyer by accident. There's a long story behind that, but that's for some other day. I would just want for them to be, one thing I'm very certain about is I would wish and hope for them to be either independent professionals in whatever space they choose to be in, or to be an entrepreneur again with their own venture. So that's my only hope, and I wish that.
So regarding spending some time with the family, what's your favorite location for travel?
My personal favorite is Europe. anywhere in Europe, and especially I would love to drive. Whenever I go to Europe, I make it a point that I drive myself around. So Europe is my favorite destination, and now next on my list is Greece.
How do you seek serenity and peace in life?
I wish serenity and peace, but on the occasions I do get the opportunity. My preferred modes are music of any kind. It's not necessarily just classical or peaceful music. Any kind of music, particularly the older songs of Hindi movies and then books. Nowadays I get an opportunity to read, and that gives me a lot of peace. I get time to reflect on my own thoughts. And last but not the least is nature. I'm fortunate to live in a location with lots of greenery. I make it a point to try and absorb in the greenery itself into other surroundings. So that's how I really tend to. And nowadays sometimes I try to also meditate a little bit. So meditate is not as in sitting poses. Just sit alone by myself, and that's the way to go.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us in the chambers of the chambers. A beautiful insight we got from you about you as a person and professional. And thank you for sparing your valuable time.
Actually, I should be thanking you. It's absolutely a pleasure to be doing this, and this is a wonderful thing that you're doing, talking to professionals and getting them to share their thoughts and experiences. So I'm actually very grateful to you for giving me this opportunity to express my views and share my experiences. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So if you have enjoyed the video, please like the video, share it to your friends and family, and do not forget to hit the bell notification so that you get all future videos.